I got two hands, I got my mouth, I know how to earn money.
She absolutely does. She doesn't miss a trick. Weight had a lot to do with Kevin's stroke, and your heart has to work harder when you're carrying that much weight around. When you are in temperatures that exceed a certain amount of degrees, and when you've got the heat index involved with the humidity, being exposed to the sun, and your body's going to let you know what goes on. When you stop sweating, that's when you have a problem. And that's exactly what happened with Big Kevin. His weight was a tremendous thing to carry around, and it was working his heart over time. So, yes, weight had a lot to do with it. Don't listen to the bullshit on here. And we are live. Sound off. Let me tell you some stories here today, and I came on live specifically. I want to put some things to rest and some things to closure. All right, we took care of the Barry problem. And we have one more thing to deal with. But there's one thing I want to talk about. Now, I put on a couple of short videos, and Joe from Boston, this is a guy who had a show on. He just recently, in fact, past couple of days, passed away. And it's probably easy to see why. The guy was obese, only 44, and his cigar smoking and all that stuff. Joe was a guy, Italian Boston guy, who spoke his mind about a lot of issues. And he had a pretty good following. I never really caught up with this guy. I mean, I never knew about him until I caught him by accident. But what he had to say made a lot of sense to me. And he's right. I think a lot of parents, well, their children anyway, get away with a lot of shit. And they always blame it on the parents. Well, you know how the trolls are. They have a field day if you talk about something about your family. Well, we're going to give you some stories here. At least certainly one of them. But I'm going to tell you that it's always the parents' fault. It's always the parents' fault. I'm doing this special today because I was listening to Joe, and this is that Boston guy on the short videos I put out on there. And it really made me think about, and looking in the past, and how I raised my daughter. You know, the trolls like to have a field day when you talk about a family member. And the fingers are always pointing on how you must have been a bad parent. Well, the truth is, back in the 80s especially, children growing up in that era, they got away with a whole lot of shit. When they wanted something, they had to get it, and a lot of parents would give in. A lot of children during that time, it's always been that way, but I think worse, when it came to the 80s and so forth, that children, they had to have their way no matter what. When they wanted whatever was available at the time, an iPhone, like Joe says on there, they had to get it, and they'll do anything to get it. And if you didn't buy them it, well, if you didn't spoil your kids, they would lash back at your ass in a big way. What a bad father you are. And you're not a bad father if you discipline your child. Of course, you don't want to discipline your child with any kind of physical discipline, but sometimes you have to say no. And you have to say the word no every now and again, because it's the only way they learn, that they can't always have their way. It's funny how things go. You raise your child, and maybe some people can relate to this, maybe some people can't, and maybe they never had children. Or maybe they had the perfect child, the perfect child, which I don't think there is. But I know one thing, growing up in my family, I didn't get away with shit. That's for damn sure. And most Italian-American families, well, it doesn't have to be Italian-American, but it happens to be mine. My parents used a good kind of an equal measure of discipline and spoil. We never went without. If we mouthed it off at our parents, they always forgave us. Or we always gave in and said, well, yeah, I was wrong, or whatever. But sometimes you can't control everything your child does as they become of age and they start getting interested and mad and and all of a sudden, good old daddy or mommy doesn't become really important anymore. All of a sudden, it's like this guy becomes more important than you. And I gave an example of that one time. I used to take my daughter, before I lived actually in Hawaii, I used to do vacationing a lot. And I don't know how I did it, sometimes 4 times a year for my job, but I managed to do it. And who would I take? No, not a woman, not anybody else. I would take her. And first she appreciated it. Then, about the 3rd time, let's see, it was my birthday. My birthday. I'm going to give you some examples, and you can make your own conclusions at it. I don't really care what you think, but since we're on that topic, it's been talked about lately, Frank is a parent or whatever, Let's just clear the air with this. Let's just get it over with. We got Barry out of the way. Let's get this over with. Okay. It was my birthday. I'm in Hawaii. I'm in Kona. Okay. And we're sitting down and I'm having a dinner. Torches going at night. Very nice atmosphere right on the ocean, And then she, of course, had just, starting of a relationship with her first boyfriend and only boyfriend she's ever had. Okay. So she missed him. She missed her boyfriend. Hormones were raging, like a raging bull, And despite me paying for this vacation, despite me, all being my birthday, she wanted to go back to Seattle because she missed her boyfriend. Left me hanging in Kona. Good thing I had my friend Bob there to spend some time with and do other activities too, and I went snorkeling. I continued my vacation, nevertheless. But I had to wind up paying out some extra fees and so forth on getting her back home so she could be with her boyfriend. Leaves me around my birthday, no respect at all, that, I'll always be able to see my boyfriend when I get back. But no. She had to go home because she missed her boyfriend. Okay, that left me sitting there like baffled and hurt and a lot of other emotions. That her boyfriend was more important than spending time in Hawaii, which most kids never ever get to go to. It's a privilege. A privilege. It's just like when I took her to the Billboard Music Awards. I could have took a chick with me on that. They would have loved it. Stayed at the La Maison Hotel. Even went to Universal Studios. The whole ball of wax. Limousine to pick us up. I could have took a chick. No, I took my daughter. A lot of these things seem to go really unappreciated by children. And that's like the changes that have happened, especially like from the 80s and onward. They don't seem to appreciate what they have, that they have a roof over their head, that they're being fed, they're being clothed, they're being loved, and yes, they're being protected, because that's what a parent does. I can't speak for everybody else on here, how they raised their children, but nobody tells me how to raise my own. And I did what I felt was right as a parent. My daughter never went without. She didn't live a lavish lifestyle at all, but she never went without. But that really just turned me around on that birthday in beautiful Hawaii. I wasn't living there at the time. With her boyfriend, well, it's the hormones taking over, and I understood that too. But I still thought at the time that was kind of cold. That was kind of cold. Couldn't believe she was doing it. Now, other incidences happen where children don't appreciate the things you do for them. Okay, now, people say, oh, you were overprotective of your child, or she may say that. Well, I'll tell you what, again, I have no regret whatsoever. So, Frank, why are you telling us all this stuff? Well, it became a topic on here, apparently. And the trolls were having a field day with it. So, why not continue? Why not? I have no regrets at all. My daughter is not a bad person. But without my guidance, she could have been smoking cigarettes. She could have been an alcoholic drinking. She could have been doing drugs. I think I added just the right touch of discipline and allowance so that she could be a free thinker and to do the things that she feels she needs to do with caution and concern and intellect to know the difference between right and wrong. That is what a parent does for their children. That's what they do. That's why we're here, because they need some kind of discipline and guidance. Now, on top of this, you have to understand a situation where you are a single parent. That's a big responsibility, being a single parent. It has its good points, it has its bad points, but it takes a lot of sacrifice. Now remember, you're not married anymore. You're single yourself, and you want to sow your oats. You want to date again. You want to get out there with the crowd, with the group. Go hit the clubs, listen to a little music, a little dance, a little bit of socialization. I enjoyed when I had the opportunity to do that. I never always did, though. That's the problem. Because, remember, I made the choice to be a single parent. And took on that responsibility and won custody of her. Fantastic, right? If you can do it, right? Yeah, I did. And I think I've always been a fair parent. And I'm talking about this because maybe some of you can relate to this, actually. Never mind the fucking trolls and shit. Let's talk reality here. I was like a knight on a white horse when it came to her. There was an incident, and actually talked about this. You might think it's highly personal, but no, I've actually talked about this a couple of years ago. My father had a friend named Sandy. He was friends with the mom. And Sandy, her father had died. So my father became kind of like a father figure to her. She'd come over, have coffee. Sometimes my father makes some lasagna for her. And Sandy seemingly was a really nice person. And I'll get to your comments after I finish here. Okay, give me a minute. And, Sandy, I befriended her too. Now, Sandy, she had some kind of a fallopian tube problem. She was married to a guy and who ran an HVAC business. So he was, making decent money. He had his own business. Louis was his name, Camarado. And she's a good girl. Your typical Italian girl. She worked in restaurants. She worked as a bartender. Always kept busy, working for a living. But the problem was she couldn't have children. That was her problem. I don't know what it's called. Something with her fallopian tubes or something like that. Okay. Whatever. I don't know all the medical definitions of what she had, but that's what she said. All right. Keynote, she couldn't have children. Anyway, one time, she lived in Yonkers, New York, actually close to Yonkers, New York. And she called up and said, "Hey, Frankie, why don't you have your daughter come out here on a vacation this summer? Give you a break, and believe me, we'll spoil her. We'll spoil her." And you'll hear the story here. It's about spoiling. Okay. So I said, I don't know, man. I'd have to think about this. I mean, I knew her really well. Well, I thought I did anyway, but it's part of the story. So I said, I don't really know. She's never been on a plane. Well, no, she's been on a plane. But, having her come out for the summer, I asked her, I said, "What do you think about that?" "Oh, yeah, it'll be great." She said, "Don't worry, we'll spoil her." Oh, yeah, they did. Well, but I didn't know the underlying reason why she wanted her out there. Now, as the plot thickens here, and it did thicken, Boy, did it. Unbelievable. You want to talk about what I do for my daughter? Well, let me give you a little, finish the story. Yeah. Well, it was a false intent of why she wanted my daughter to come out there. Just like a troll on YouTube, she wanted to try to find fault with me. I'll get to the punchline. So she could try to get some kind of custody of my daughter because she couldn't have children of her own. Of course, she's met my daughter. She really liked my daughter, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. She built up the confidence in my daughter. So as a parent, I had to think and say, look, I don't know. I mean, I know her real well. She seems like a legitimate person, good friends with my father. Absolutely. It's like my father's daughter. So I thought about it and said, she goes, well, just promise me one thing. Don't tell Louie, that's her husband, that I'm paying for the trip. Okay. It's like she had this plot and plan that even Louie didn't know about. Louie was a good guy. For what I know about him, he was a good guy. And he basically was, you know, kneeling at her wants and needs. She was very spoiled by her husband, Louie. And what she wanted, she got. Good husband. I think he was a good man. But I think he knew what he was dealing with in a lot of ways. But he found out later on what he was really dealing with. So the story goes on. I agreed. Okay, she was all excited to do this. My daughter's all excited to do it. Okay, she's going to spend the summer. What the hell? A nice vacation in New York. And she went out there. She went out there to it's near Yonkers. It's another town. I won't mention the name of the town, but right next to Yonkers. And Sandy, of course, spoiled the shit out of her. Spoiled the living shit out of her. She enrolled my daughter in a summer camp. Prestigious, you know, what was the name of that show? Bill Cosby's show. His wife actually had their children at this exclusive summer camp. And I think it was either on Wood Island, Whidbey Island or somewhere. No, where was this? No, this is New York. Okay, I got to get my brain going. This was New York. This was an exclusive, not that they were really rich, but, you know, she wanted to win over my daughter is exactly what was going on. She wanted to win her over and her trust and emotion. Okay, man, that sounds fun. She went horseback riding. They went out on some, the kids over there went out on some jet skis. Then things started taking a turn. Well, I started getting a little bit questionable about what the hell was really going on. She put my daughter's name on her bedroom door, Shauna's room. She bought her a new dresser, bought her a bicycle. You following this? Okay. And you're getting the picture so far, right? Well, I started to get the picture. Something didn't seem right here. Something didn't seem right. It's like it was a one-way ticket to Sandy's home. And I started thinking to myself, something ain't right. I had to go with my instincts. It turned out to be right. She was trying to spoil my daughter so much that she'd want to stay there. And on top of that, and this was a good friend of my father's and mine, started to say some very negative things about me, that your father don't love you, and this and that, and this and that, trying to actually brainwash my daughter. This really happened. This is a real story, by the way, not made up. I had no reason to make this story up. So, life is good. Summer camp. My God, even the Cosby, what was her name? I remember Bill Cosby's wife's name, but like I said, even her children went to that camp. Fun. This is great. This is fantastic. I could enjoy this because, my father can't provide for me this way. And she was trying to entice my daughter in such a way to make her stay. So I just started to put two and two together and had to follow my instincts. And something just was not right. Something was very wrong that was going on. So I called over there and I put my daughter on the phone. She would go on the other extension and listen in. Now, after surmising and putting together almost digitally in my mind, putting all the facts together and the events that were going on, the door with her name on it, Shauna's room, the bicycle, the new dresser, she was planning for her to stay. So she had to kind of come up something to make me sound like a bad parent. What happened is I called over there, and this is a true story. I called over there to talk to her, and me and my daughter, we had a secret code that if there was some kind of problem, she would know by the name, and I used the word Mickey Mouse, something she could always remember. And if I told her if I ever said the word Mickey Mouse, that means that there's some kind of trouble going on you need to be aware of. We had our own code. That's right, we went that far. We had our own code. That's how much I didn't care for my daughter, right? We had our own code. So on the phone, I go, Mickey Mouse, and she had to think, wait a minute, what are you talking about, Dad? Mickey Mouse, Shauna. And I tried to get out that, Shauna, she's trying to keep you there. Something is not right. She gets on the other phone. She hangs up. I call back again. And she was ragging on me, saying I didn't take care of my daughter. I'm like, what? Because one time she had some ill-fitting shoes. That's what she was growing into. And she developed a little bunion or something. Well, that happens. Okay. And while she was out there, she had a tooth that was bothering her. Like I never took care of her dental. But any medical problem she's ever had, down to a small cold, she saw a doctor. She saw the dentist regularly because I had insurance for that. Everything she needed. There wasn't a stone unturned when it came to her care, medically and otherwise. Then she's saying that my daughter was wearing raggy clothes, which she wasn't. So Sandy went out and bought her all this expensive Oshkosh, took all her old clothing. She bought her brand new clothing. Her little girl ain't gonna go for that. Summer vacation, her own bicycle, her own room with her name on it like a Hollywood star. Yeah, jet skis, summer camp, exclusive summer camp in New York, okay? What kid isn't gonna go for that? Well, then it got to the point where I called up and Sandy got on the phone. You don't take care of her. Blah, 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 blah. I go, what are you fucking talking about? Well, there it was. All my instincts came to reality. I followed my instincts, found out I was right. She wanted to keep her there. To me, that was kidnapping. It was her intent to get her there and not let her come back. Not because she had a bad parent and it wasn't taking care of her, not because I was abusive to her in any form or way. She could not have children and she saw an opportunity. Took advantage of it. And my daughter's naivety and gullibility, she was thinking everything was right. She had no idea what was going on until I tried to explain to her. Sandy would hang up on me on the phone. I got to the point, I called the FBI. But the FBI said, we can't do anything because you voluntarily allowed her to go spend a summer vacation at Sandy's house. So the FBI could not get involved with this matter. Sandy had the nerve to go to court to try to gain custody of my own daughter. The most selfish, act you could ever see trying to take a child from a parent based on, well, does this sound familiar? Like somebody's complaint against me with immigration? Does this sound familiar? So she concocted a whole bunch of bullshit crap with a lawyer saying I didn't take care of my child, this and that, and add this and that to that. So, here I was, there was a temporary order saying that I could not go over there to even see my own daughter. My own daughter! I was frantic. I went to work. I had tears coming out of my eyes. What's wrong, Frank? I told him the story. Now, keep in mind, Sandy figured I didn't have any money. A lot of people figure I don't have money, but she was fooled by that. She figured this. This is in the bag for me, she's thinking. He has no money to get a lawyer. Frankie has no money to get a lawyer. She'll be mine before you know it. Well, she was wrong. Not only did I have the money for the lawyer, but I flew a lawyer from Seattle to New York. He's never been in New York before, so he was really kind of hyped about going there. And we attended a hearing on this matter. Now, and I told the story in the past, actually. Andrew Vax, V-A-A-C-H-S, I think he's been passed away. He was known, he had the eye patch on his eye. He used to appear on the Oprah show as a guest. He was a child's advocate. Now, you have your own lawyer. The other party have their own lawyer. When it comes to children, in New York, there has to be a middleman. There has to be a children's advocate when it comes to issues to the children. Follow me so far? Okay. So, Andrew Vax was strategic in this. Sandy made allegations I wasn't taking care of her, blah, blah, blah. Didn't have the means to take care of her. Well, we go to court in the Yonkers courthouse, and my lawyer was excited, of course, to come to New York. This was a big deal for him. Yes, I paid for a lawyer. She thought I didn't have any money, but thank goodness I had money tucked in the bank. And thank goodness if I did not, I would have lost my daughter. My daughter didn't realize what the hell was going on until this thing was over. She had no clue. So comes court day. Shauna was there, dressed up. Looked like something out of the fucking late 1800s. And she had this fancy little straw hat on with the appropriate dress, looking like a very spoiled little girl. My daughter never dressed that way. Sandy would dress her up like a doll, like a child would dress up a doll. That's how sick in the mind she was. She had no idea I was at the courtroom because she had to go sit in a room until the court thing was over. So that's where Andrew Vax came in. And they went over all the facts. And Andrew basically took precedence over my own lawyer, really. He did a great job. And he said to the judge, this is quite an injustice. That Mr. Battaglia is a wonderful parent. He has attended to all his needs. The school people who knew me, that knew she wasn't a problem child, that the father took good care of him, the people at the daycare she used to go to, a letter from the dentist saying we come in for regular visits, a letter from the doctor saying we always go there, the slightest thing, it's a cold or whatever it was. People who vouched for me and my ability to be a father to a child and take appropriate care for her. Now remember, all this time she had no idea what was going on. Despite the Mickey Mouse code, I didn't get a chance to explain because Sandy got on the phone and she hung up. So here it was. I had my daughter in Yonkers. I couldn't even talk to her. There was an order saying I could not go over there to see her. This is my own daughter. This is my own daughter. My own daughter. Imagine as a parent how you'd feel in a situation like this. Okay, so there's the court hearing. The facts came out. It was very easy. The court, seeing that this was a desperate attempt for a woman who could have children to try through trying to fault me as a parent and as a friend too, and a good friend of my father. She transcended all the relationships she had with me and my father. It didn't matter. She wanted to have a child of her own to raise because she couldn't have children. This was the most horrible thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I couldn't tell you the emotion involved with this, and there's no way of describing it. Bad enough, I was divorced, so I was no longer in a relationship with my wife. Then I was going to have my daughter taken away from me, and for no valid reason. No valid reason. Perfectly taken care of, perfectly loved. And yes, protected, absolutely. I wouldn't change a thing on that. There we were. So, court hearing was over. They threw out her complaint, being invalid. The court seen what was going on, but unless I furthered this thing with more charges, that was it. And Andrew Vax got up there and said, we shouldn't even be in this courtroom. This is a desperate attempt from this woman to have somebody else's child because she could not have one of her own. Laid it out on the judge. And more than my own lawyer did. More than my own lawyer did. Well, at the end of the session, okay, we leave the courtroom. And my mother and her husband at the time, that's who I was staying. I was staying at her house in Mineola, New York, in Long Island. And they graciously boarded me there for a few days. They came with me to the court, and we waited in the other room afterwards. And then when it was over, and Sandy walks out with her tail between her legs, and with her she had a luggage of some sort with all Shauna's clothing in it, just in case it didn't go her way. And it didn't. So my daughter comes out of this room. She had no idea it was even in the courtroom. She had no idea what the hell was going on. She walks out of the room. She sees me. Dad, what are you doing here? Well, I had to explain once we left the courthouse with my mom and her husband. She comes out of the room dressed like something out of Gone with the Wind. Looking like someone was dressing up a little doll with dresses and these like Southern style hats, you know, that were popular in the South. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. That was not my daughter. It wasn't her at all. So Sandy and her husband walked out. I'm sure her husband was pissed at her because her husband was a more reasonable guy, and he probably had a lot of dealings with her, emotional dealings with her. That was probably unbearable. If Sandy wanted to get her way, that was it. And her husband had to put up with this since they were married, I'm sure. So we leave the courtroom. Of course, I'm very happy. And I had to explain to her as we were walking to go to a train station, however it was, we were getting back to my mother's house. And I explained to her what was going on, and she had absolutely no idea. I better put this on charge. She had absolutely, completely no idea what was going on until I told her. So when I hear people, of course they're trolls, and they're never going to say anything nice about anybody on here. When I hear them talking such nonsense about being a bad father or something, I was that proverbial knight on a white horse that came to rescue my daughter, and nothing stopped me. Just like anything else. Nothing stops me when I feel I'm right about something. I am a person who does take action, and obviously so. Obviously so. You can think, why? I was an emotional wreck from this. It can show you how gullible and naive a child can be when they're being enticed by somebody and don't know what the hell is going on. People make the assumption, well, Frank had no money. It's in the bag, she would tell her husband. It's in the bag. He was against this the whole time. But he would give in to Sandy whatever she needed. My understanding is, I think today karma took place. I think they've been divorced for a while, if my understanding is correct on my research. My daughter, after a while, got the clue of what was going on. But she still was so enticed by Sandy. Oh, she was so nice to me, though. At some point, she wanted to try to find a way to get in touch. I said, what the fuck are you talking about? Do you not understand what was going on? It was really hard to get things into my daughter's head, to make her understand things. My daughter was actually pretty spoiled by me. I'd give in sometimes, and other times I wouldn't give in. I disciplined her properly, not overly, not under, when necessary. Yeah, she was protected by me like a mother hen would protect their baby chicks. That was me. Wouldn't change a thing. I would never change one goddamn thing. And to this day, I still feel the same way. Then your children grow up and they stab you in the back. You provide for them. You were the parent when the other parent didn't want to be a parent. You made your own sacrifices, and you heard this outrageous story. It's not a story, it's factual, but let's call it a story. From when I had my birthday, she decided it was more important to spend, well, her hormones were raging. And she decided to want to be with her boyfriend. On my birthday, on an exclusive vacation that most people don't get to go, she went 3 times a year to Hawaii with me. On my birthday. On my birthday. She had to be with her boyfriend. She left me hanging. I could have took a woman with me on a trip. I didn't. When I won this contest for this Billboard, go to the Billboard Music Awards, to Hollywood, I could have took a woman with me, a girlfriend. No, I took my daughter instead. That's how much I thought about my daughter. She's been to Canada with me in 2 different places. She's been to New York. She's been to Hollywood. She's been to Hawaii, Canada, all that. Don't ever even remotely tell me what a bad parent that I am. Don't even remotely. I'll smack you in the fucking face, let me tell you. Don't even remotely, even in jest or as a troll. I probably took better care of my child than most people where you have both parents take care of their children. I had to do it on my own. And it was not easy. There were weekends when some of the gang decided to go out, a little clubbing. I couldn't go. Because maybe I didn't have a sitter, and I would never leave her alone. That's being responsible. Of course, I'd be banging my head against the wall because I didn't get to go out that often, because I chose to raise my daughter on my own. And I accepted that responsibility. I had some hard times too when, I wanted to go out and socialize and be with the little gang I used to hang out with. And I couldn't. And they were out there having a good old time, clubbing it, dancing to the music, enjoying each other's company. And I had to stay home because it was my responsibility to do so. I'd be home on that weekend because it was my job, and I chose that to be my job. I could have gave her over to the mother, but I knew that she would have a horrible, horrible, horrible life if she were to be with the mother. Her mother was a putan, okay, like Joe says in that short, a putan. Her mother was a putan, is what she was. My daughter doesn't realize how good she had it with me. So they grow up. They get interested in a guy. You don't exist anymore. They don't want to listen to you no more. All they know is they're following their hormones. That's pretty typical. It's atypical, really. But it's how far it went. So children, when they experience problems, it's real easy to pass it over to the parent. Well, he's overprotective of me, or I didn't get my way all the time. And well, that's the way it is and the way it should be. You can't have your way all the time if you're wrong. Parents' job is to say, no, you're not right. And let me tell you why you're not right. And they won't listen to you. They just get all cantankerous. They might say, oh, I hate you for that, I hate you for that. Well, hate me all you want. I'm doing what I think is the right job to do. It's not easy, whether you had a boy or especially a girl, raising a girl on your own. As I said, I've talked about this before. You had to play both roles, and you had to play the mother part when the mother was absent. And sure, I dated a lot. She was introduced to numerous women. And there's only a couple of them I got real close to, and she started to get real close to. And I felt bad about that because maybe the relationship didn't last, and she needed that female bonding. She really needed. So, what did good old Frank do? Okay, I didn't leave it at that. This is the horrible parent that I am. There was an organization called oh God, what was that called? Something Friends. It's where you would introduce a female presence in your daughter's life, and they would go out and do things together, go to movies, go here and there. I forgot the name of the program. I went that far because of the fact that I was dating a lot, and there was really, not seemingly at the time, a couple of times, the doctor's daughter, I was with her about a year at the time, and I thought things were going to turn out, and she was just starting to get used to her, and that didn't last. Of course, that's a disappointment. She's suddenly trying to bond to somebody, then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. What the hell was the name of this program? God, it's just it's on the tip of my tongue. But I've got a person who would take her out once a week on the weekends and take her to do stuff. This way, she had female bonding going on. Okay, I wanted to make sure that she had some female influence and to do things with a female, taking her out to do things, not a male, not the father, but somebody totally outside of the picture of the family, and who would take her out and do things. That's how much I thought about my daughter. That's how much. And I take it really to offense when somebody ever says I wasn't a good parent, or if she makes any implication that I wasn't a good parent. That really sucked. I don't know, honestly, what her psychological situation is. I know a few things. I don't know where she's transgressed. I don't know. I don't know because there's no communication. But I'll be damned if I'm going to have anybody say I was a bad parent. What I did for her was exemplary. I almost had her taken away from me from a woman who couldn't have a child. And she stepped all over me, and by doing so, she stepped all over my father. It was a horrible situation. It affected me emotionally on the deepest level that I ever been affected in my life. I'm still scarred from it today. I still am. It's something that I can't forget. And how easily people can manipulate the legal system, as somebody's girlfriend has done to me with the Department of Immigration. Lowly as it is, heinous as it is, people are capable of doing this kind of shit. And I promise to be a strong ass for the rest of my life after that happened. I would never let anybody step on my toes anymore. Not after what I went through. I don't trust a lot of people, and I will always be that way. I'm not going to put my trust in many people. As a parent, I was exemplary. There's no question about it. It's not that I have to prove to my audience I wanted to do this show today, because I've not been doing lives, as you know, and I've been putting out a couple of extraneous little shorts out there. But I've handled one issue with Barry. He's a done deal with that guy. I got to handle his girlfriend's issue. But I wanted to bring this up as an issue because these people don't have a clue what they're talking about. They just want to try to hurt somebody's feelings. They want to gang up on people when there is no reason to do so. And to bring my daughter into the picture, I'm a bad parent, this and that. Let me tell you something. I don't care who you are and how fucking big you are. You came in front of me and told me I was a horrible parent or I did something wrong with my child. I'd cold cock you. I don't care how fucking big you are. If it means hitting you in the nuts, I don't give a shit what it is. I'd be the wild man from fucking Borneo. How dare you'd ever accuse me of being a bad parent? I was one of the exceptional parents who went out of his way, where other parents during that time were letting their kids get away with everything they wanted. They'd be smoking cigarettes, drinking, the whole thing, fucking every other guy. My daughter didn't do that. She had one boyfriend, one, her first that she wound up marrying. That turned out to be a disaster down the line after 4 kids. And what he turned out to be goes into another fucking bad relationship. Is it my upbringing that made her do bad choices? No, it wasn't. Her choices. This guy worked at a fucking head shop, was seeing his co-worker behind the back fucking on her while he's pretending to be in a deep relationship with her, and she believed everything he said until she put two and two together. But I love him. After advice from me and my brother. Remember I told you about the advice? She asked me advice. I tell her she wouldn't listen to me. Is that my fault? That's not my fault. That got screwed up, right? Right? That got screwed up. This guy was smoking pot around the kids in the house. She told me that. He didn't even bring the girlfriend over there like she was just a friend from work. Meanwhile, he was fucking on her side. She probably was lonely. You know, she wanted to have a man around. Maybe she thought she could never get another man. It's like the battered wife syndrome. Though they weren't married, it's the same thing. He could abuse her emotionally and all that, and she took it all. And she makes excuse, but I love him. In other words, I know he's doing wrong. I know he cheated on me. I know he did all that crap. But I love him. I would tell her, do you know what love is? Or is this some emotional dependence you have on this guy? Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? Seriously? Are you fucking kidding me? You can't tell her what to do. Some children are like that. You give them good advice, but then you're the bad guy. Oh, my counselor, yeah, some fucking women's lib fucking high libertarian fucking counselor she went to that said, oh, your father was really very protective. And he stopped you from doing all the things that you should be doing. I never stopped her from doing anything. Unless it was wrong. Blame the parent, not the child. Blame the parent. And I'm like, what the fuck again, right? Blame the parent? I was exemplary, I think, as a parent. I was there for my daughter, always. Always. To this day, I'm there for her. If she decided to get in touch with me, I'm still there for her. I don't get that appreciation. I guess I'm going to my deathbed without having my daughter in my life and never be able to get to know my grandchildren. That was the second thing, another thing she did wrong. No matter what issues and tissues she had with me, I hope you're learning from this because I'm sure some people that might have happened to. I'm just willing to talk about it. Her children are grown up now. They're grown up. She's going to experience some of the same shit that I did with her. It's only that time, and I'm sure she is, because she has 2 children that have sort of kind of some emotional issues by her own admission to me. Okay, not a story made up. And I really don't know, where they are today as far as their emotional makeup. I really don't know. I mean, how would I know? And yes, I have made my efforts. It wasn't even recently I've tried emailing her and stuff. My birthday, she didn't give me a happy birthday to her father. Nothing like that. It's like I never fucking existed. And after all the raising I did of her, better than most parents, especially during that time and onward, parents are too busy working and they don't know what the hell their kids were doing. I knew everything she was doing. And I'm proud of the fact that I put my nose in her business. Because that's why she didn't turn out to be a drug addict or an alcoholic. Well, I don't know what she is right now because I don't talk to her. I wouldn't know, be quite honest with you. But I think I did a damn bang-up job. I think I did a fantastic job. But you wind up with the black eye. The knight on the white horse that went all his way, flying across the country with a lawyer to get her out of a situation she wasn't even aware of, from a woman who was supposedly close to the family. If I didn't have any common sense in me, I would have lost her. If I didn't have money in the bank, I would have lost her. You know what an emotional loss it would be? Well, it's an emotional loss right now. It's an emotional loss for me right now, this second, all these years. When you've raised your daughter and you've done everything you should do by the book and more, and she's spitting at you, putting a dagger in your fucking back. How do you feel as a parent? So you're the bad guy. How is that even possible? You're the bad guy. Okay, I guess I should read some of these comments before I get off here. Okay, Nico always fails to tell people how he raised his sons. Nico was a deadbeat drug addict, father to his first batch of kids. Yes, first batch. Regent says only recently has he reconciled with one child. His other son wants nothing to do with him. Regent says Nico's daughter has zero education, was living at home up until this year, had a baby out of marriage, and a loser of a baby daddy. Nice job, Nico, raising that one, bro. Okay, I have no comments on that. I'm talking about my story. That's Nico's problems. Okay, I wanted to continue this little saga regarding my parenting skills, or what I supposedly did or did not do for my daughter. What did Frank do? Someone posed a question on a troll show. I'd like to know why. I'd like to know why. Why is it that Frank's daughter doesn't talk to him? As if, something terrible was going on. What was behind that? Well, I just told you the story. My daughter is stubborn. More stubborn than I would ever be in my life, ever. And I could be a stubborn motherfucker. But she takes it to the limit. Her own guilt, perhaps? I don't know. People wallow in their own guilt sometimes. No way in the world was ever a bad father to my daughter. And I went out of my way to be the best father I could ever be to my only child. And I'll tell you a little secret too. There was a time I didn't even know if she was my own child. That's another story. But I still raised her like she is. Well, I'm sure she is, but there was a time when I even questioned that. Yeah. You don't know much about the mother. I watched her stomach grow. I didn't know whose kid it was. But I stayed there with the mother. I watched her belly grow, and a child, behold, a child, come out of the womb, and I raised her as my own, not knowing, even to this day, whether it's my own child. But she does look a lot like me, so we never had a blood test, but there was something that went on because, my ex-old lady was kind of a putain, There was an incident that made me believe that maybe it was not mine, but I raised her as my own, loved her as my own. Yeah, she is my own. But I didn't need a blood test for that. I see the features on her. However, there was a time I did not know. I was a good parent before she was even born, not knowing whether it was my child or not. And have to sit there month after month and watching my girlfriend's belly grow and grow to each term to the point she had the child. Yeah, I was there, even under uncertain circumstances of not knowing who child. Was it mine? Was it mine? There you go. That's the story. Say what you want because you're a troll, but you don't have what it takes. You could never be me. You could only wish you could be me, in a lot of sense of that, and a lot of sensibility with that statement. Don't ever tell me that I'm a bad parent. Never tell me I'm a bad parent. I don't think you've raised your children with the patience, the devotion, the loyalty, the concern that I've raised my daughter. And children turn on you. And they got to qualify for this. Well, this didn't go right. He got mad at me for something one time. You're damn right. I have the right to get mad sometimes. Never physically hurt my child, but I used my voice when I had to. When I thought something was wrong, I would tell her straight up. And if she didn't like it, too fucking bad. You have to show your child who's in control, not meaning you're being controlling, but there has to be a dividing line on what you would allow your child to get away with or not. You got to lay down the law when you're raising your child. Otherwise, you're going to be on the streets smoking dope and all that. And my daughter never did that. She didn't wind up on the streets prostituting, smoking dope, drinking, smoking cigarettes. She never did that. Why? Because I was a good disciplinarian and a caring father who did not want to see her life be that way. What happens to a child's life once they grow up on their own, they leave the nest, is not the responsibility of the parent anymore. They make their own decisions, make their own judgments. Yeah, hello, Counterflow. Yeah, this is a very serious show I'm putting on here. And since you're making a big issue, Frank's a bad parent and all that, I could shrug that shit off. I'm obviously an exemplary parent. That's why I'm talking about this today. That's why I got on a live show, okay, which I wasn't going to. I made a couple of videos. They're kind of funny. This guy named Joe from Boston, and he laid it out. And Joe laid it out. Unfortunately, this guy I heard died a couple of days ago. And he had this show on for a while, and he would tell it like it is. Big fat Joe, with the cigar in his hand. The guy was a real character. Well, he only made it to 44 because he was obese. I'm not going to get into the obesity issue, but fuck him. If you're obese, suffer. Big Kevin was talking about, speaking of obesity, I have to throw this one in. I'm in good health and it has nothing to do with my weight that I had a heat stroke. Yes, it did, Big Kevin. It was a contributing factor. Your heart in the heat had to work extra hard. And your brain, the blood flow, Kevin. All the know-it-alls out there, and they're falling like flies. But don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. I don't know anything. Yes, Kevin, you're still obese, and your obesity did contribute to the heat stroke you had when you went to go do your visa thing, whatever you were doing. Of course it did, Kevin. Don't be so stupid and naive. Your weight is controlling a lot of things. You are not perfectly healthy. I hate to tell you that, Kevin. Your weight did contribute to the stroke. And it'll probably happen again. And if you react that way to the heat, don't tell us that you're out there painting the town red. Not during the day, you're not. Not during the day, you're not. You may go out at night and buy the little girlies a drink, but not during the day. You're not going to be out on the beach all the time during the day. You're not exploring the culture of Thailand or Vietnam. You didn't go anywhere, Big Kevin. You didn't go anywhere. You can put the wool over some people's eyes, but not mine, sir. Counselor, I don't listen to someone else I don't know. Nico? Yeah, Nico, yeah. Anyway, that's quite a story. That's quite a story, isn't it? So as far as me being a bad parent, you gotta be fucking kidding. I will always love my daughter. As a parent, you always will. And you realize people have their own problems. I don't know exactly. I know one axis of it. I don't know if there's been any compounded psychological issues with her through her trial and error of relationships and the disappointment from her husband who turned out to be some kind of a child fucking pornography king on a computer. It has nothing to do with me, my friends. I didn't even bother with the guy. I always thought he was emotionally kind of weird. And my instincts turned out to be right. Thought he was a creep, and he turned out to be a creep. That's the bad choice she made. Right away, she married the guy, having children. 4 from him. Now meets another guy, has another child. Guy number 3. Okay. I don't control that. She's a grown-up, and she does what she wants. She makes mistakes, but she's the kind of kid that was always very defensive and offensive when you tried to set her right. She would ask advice. You give her advice, she wouldn't take it. So where is this all going to go? I went to did a show about this, about advice with her. If you don't take your advice, what are you going to do? You're going to force the advice down her throat? You hope as a parent that you give your child the best advice and that they take it. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. Now the trolls could have a field day with this. There's nothing to have a field day with. From the information I just put out on this show, I think you understand me quite well. What kind of a person I actually am. I'll use the word. I was exemplary as a father. Absolutely. I have no regrets except for my daughter basically turning on me and not allowing me to know my own grandchildren. That was something that women usually pull on their husbands. If I don't get my way or write alimony or whatever it is, or this or that, you're not going to be able to see the kids. That's horrible. You don't do that. So I don't even know my grandkids anymore. I knew them for a while, and they liked me for the time they met me and all that. We could have a wonderful relationship, but she didn't allow me to see the kids. She didn't allow me to see the kids over some arguments we had. Okay? But no matter what, you don't involve the children. Let them make their own choices whether they want grandpa to be in their life or not. They didn't have that choice. And yes, it is a sad story. But when you like to talk about me as a parent, just listen to this broadcast and tell me that I didn't go way out of my way to be a good parent to my daughter, to be a good protective father, got her out of bad situations, and a lot of the lack of respect she had for me, from every little thing, from my birthday in Hawaii. What kid gets to go to Hawaii 3 times a year? There was a time that she was going to Hawaii. Sometimes a couple of times a year. It was the next year she'd go again. How many kids are that privileged to do that? Or to take them to the Billboard Music Awards in Hollywood? To stay at the La Maison Hotel, which was a fairly good hotel at the time. Yeah. I could have took some chick. I took her to Canada. 2 places in Canada. To Hollywood, California. To New York as a kid. To Hawaii. But I get stepped on. It's like stepping on my heart. There you go. Story done. And I'm sure the trolls will have a field day with this. But, of course, they're not going to say anything positive about this. Not at all. They know damn well I'm a damn good father, was a damn good father to my daughter, but they're going to, of course, turn that around. But that doesn't change the reality of me as a father. It doesn't change what transpired. Trolls could talk all they want about this and that and call you every name in the book. It don't mean it's true. That's why they're called trolls, obviously. Listen to that guy, Joe. Just go back to my 2 videos, 2 shorts. The guy's right. Too many children got away with too much shit. They turned out to be some putans. That's what happens. When you let your kids have their way all the time, you go too easy on them. I think I went way too easy on her. Way too easy. But properly, and I did everything I should do. And she still turned out, up until she started getting interested in boys and her hormones were raging. That's when everything fell apart. Bye, Dad. Nice knowing you, pal. Thanks for raising me. Fuck you. And with the finger in the picture there that you see on there. There you go. That's the respect. I could do a Rodney routine and tell you I get no respect at all. I never get respect from her at all. None. I'm going to go to my deathbed without really getting to be in my daughter's life or my grandchildren. But it is what it is. I know I'll be going to my grave knowing that I was a good father. I did the best I could. I went through some adventures raising her. Went out of my way in some ways. Now, if I didn't want to be a parent, hey, let Sandy have the kid. Or let mother have the kid. But no, I was there. to defend my daughter, to defend myself, and have my daughter in my life because I wanted to. I could have easily let her stay with Sandy at that, that situation. Trouble's over. Let her raise her. I could let her mother raise her. I didn't allow that. End of story. You should only hope to ever have a father like me. Ever. I held back. As a father wants to be protective to his daughter, I also had a concern for the children. That's the story. Now you know everything. You can comment about it, vlog about it, whatever you want to do. But for the people that are wondering, well, what the hell did Frank do to his daughter to make her not want to be in his life? She even put a restraining order against me when I lived in Hawaii to not communicate with her because she didn't want to face the truth. Oh yeah, as a parent, she was fucking pissed off at me for even considering calling the Child Protective Services. Maybe I had a reason why I was considering to do this. Instead of me being the culprit here, where I ever would mistreat my daughter, well, tides turned. Just say there were things going on that I was concerned about, and that's what started it all. There you go. Now everything is out in the open. And it was always going to be what? Frank. There we go. The plot thickened. There's your answer. And she was adamant, livid about it. But she's lucky I didn't actually call him. I want to do a wait and see. That's all it was about. Okay, on the Ricky subject. I have no clue what's going on with that. I just got an email from somebody trying to throw me off or something. I've had emails like this. Something happened to this person, something, and it was never true. Could it be true in Ricky's case? Well, if not current, if not a valid email, can that happen? Absolutely. The same is probably going to happen with Big Kevin. Just to name a few. You can't live that lifestyle and expect to be healthy and live a long life. It's not how it works. I'm having a bowl of oatmeal right now with almond milk and cinnamon. I even threw in some peanuts in there. That's my breakfast. No bacon, no 6 eggs. I'm having some healthy oatmeal. But you can't tell somebody how to live their life. If they ask you for advice, you give them it. They don't take it, well, they're on their own. Now, do I think something really happened with Ricky? I don't think so. But if it did, would it surprise anyone? Would it surprise me? No, of course not. It's inevitable. But don't listen to me. I'm never right. Or people don't want to admit that I'm right. Well, I wrote back to the person who wrote me. Okay. I said, prove it. Where'd you get your information from? It's one thing to say something, but prove it. I get emails like this every now and again. somebody died when they didn't die. Most of it was correct, though. When I heard that Ed Lippert died, that was correct. Fazio. And one of Fazio's followers, not Jack Thompson, who was the other guy? And so on. Now, Big Kevin, he's in the perfect storm right now. The perfect storm. He's still obese. And he's in some really hot, humid climate. A recipe for disaster. As proven. He recently had a heat stroke. It's a good sign of things to come. Again, he claims that his weight has nothing to do with it. They're all experts on their own health. No, they're not. I told you, 2025, before the end of this year, we're going to hear another story about a popular vlogger. Then I can say, I was right, yet again. Yet again. Anyway, just take that information as bullshit until proven. But how would you know? How would the person know that wrote me? Does Ricky designate somebody to be his mouthpiece or information center, that if something happens to him that the rest of the world is going to know about it? In other words, did he designate somebody? How would you know otherwise? For example, something ever happened to me, I gave instructions to tell my girlfriend, don't tell anybody. Let them think I'm off YouTube, croaked, whatever. I said, don't tell anybody, not even on your Facebook. Don't even mention it on your Facebook. So how would anybody know in regards to Ricky? Well, number one, we know that Ricky's a formula for disaster. So is Big Kevin and some others, right? We know that. Bob Cooper, people like him. There's a list on there. Even Big E. He's a recipe for disaster. There's no question about it. There's absolutely no question. I hate being right all the time, but a lot of times I am right. But don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. I've been right about a lot of things so far. It's your own investigation about Ricky. I'm not buying it until there's a proven story. I tell you, I get emails like this all the time. Well, not all the time, but every blue moon somebody say someone popped off or something. It turned out to be all right, like Ed Lippert and other people. But if you were to send me an email saying somebody croaked, well, I say one thing and only to them. I don't go into a big dissertation to them. I just said, well, prove it. If Ricky kicked off because of his obesity or whatever, well, where did you get your information? I'm not saying that's an improbable thing or an impossible thing to happen, but if Ricky kicked off, how do we know about it anyway? Did Ricky designate somebody who will get on YouTube or somewhere and contact somebody and say, oh, by the way, Ricky kicked off? Going to the great vloggers beyond in hell. So don't write me and tell me something unless you can prove it. So I'm awaiting an email on this. I want to know the proof. If you're going to tell me something, prove it. Anyway, I hope you guys have been my short retirement here from live streams, very short retirement. Hope you guys have been enjoying my. Hope you enjoyed Joe, the Italian guy from from Boston. That guy is something else. I like his style because he told it like it was. And that's simply who I am. I tell it like it is. You could enjoy my stories or you don't, and enjoy what I talk about or not, but they do because they come back to my channel all the time. They wouldn't have anything to talk about if it wasn't for me. I have actually been a service to this community beyond belief, beyond most people. I've always proven myself to be right. That's a funny statement. I've always proven. Do I have some obligation to prove anything to anybody? No, I don't. But I like proving people wrong anyway. I get enjoyment from that. I've passed out so many dishes of crow in my time I can't count. And they hate it. And that's why they get even more adverse to me, because they're tired of crow. You know, they want to eat some chicken for a change or something, but nothing but crow. They're tired of crow. They're tired of spitting out the black feathers. They're choking on their feathers. Oh well. What can I tell you? If I'm right, I'm right, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's all I can tell you. It's either one or the other. No, nobody on here has to prove anything to anybody, especially if you're not related to these people. They're not your family. They're not putting food on your table. They're not paying your rent if you have to pay rent. They're not paying your electric bill. They're not your guidance counselors. They're nobody. They're absolutely nobody. But everybody has an opinion, but unfortunately their opinions are not always correct. And they get pretty vicious with some of the things they put out on YouTube, because they're upset that their stomach is just overfilled with crow and they can't handle it. So they get defensive and then terribly offensive. Isn't that the pattern? There you go. Great morning for stories, huh? Now you know what you wanted to know. Why? Why did my daughter start being very adverse to me? Well, there's always been problems between me and her about advice and stuff, but, you know, she takes it to an amazing level, to a whole nother level. Good father? Abso-fucking-lutely. A daughter with some emotional issues? Yeah, I would say so. And is that my fault? I'll blame it on the parent. It's always that way. No, that's not always the truth. In some situations, some parent and child relationships might be as such, but not in this situation. So now you know the story. Let's just say that something went down, conglomerated, over time, and into argument. Yeah, did I threaten to call the Child Protective Service? And that sent her into a tailspin. So there's your reason why she's so against me. I was concerned for the children, my grandchildren that I never really fully got to know. I was being protective of these children even though they weren't in my life. That's what a grandfather does. That's what a father does. There you go. Do they even care about the Iran-Israel conflict down where you are? Oh, they're not concerned over here about that. Yeah, I was just really it's going to be a war, man. What do you expect? It helps the economy. War helps the economy. You know, the United States lives with that concept. Don't you understand that? Nothing new about that. Yeah, there's some serious shit going on. If Iran went and attacked, what was it? Okay, no. It was let me get it right. Was it Russia? No, it was Israel that attacked the nuclear facilities of some respect. Is that what it was? I caught a little bit of that on the news. And then, you know, the relationship with Iran has never been good with the United States. It's another excuse to go to war because they are going to stand behind Israel. You know that, I know that. And they don't like Iran, have a horrible history with Iran. So yeah, and so the United States is going to step in to protect Israel. And there you go, we're going to have another World War III. With all, yeah, you're right. I know your point, the warthog. What you're trying to say is, with all the serious shit going on in the world right now, people are more concerned with the gossip. They're more concerned with knocking people on YouTube when life is so fucking short. So let's say Ricky did kick the bucket. If he didn't now, he eventually will. We all will, but more so on Ricky's side, okay? That more likeliness that to happen. Ricky spent all this time just downing other people's channels, downing people, getting involved with some things that he should never get involved with. And if that did happen, then karma took its place. There is karma after all, guys, and I know some of you are kind of like a little skeptical about this whole thing about karma that I've been pushing for years. Karma is real. The homes of the nuclear scientists and all their military. Okay, I remember that part. Didn't actually, I don't think you could just bomb a nuclear site where the bomb is there. I mean, wouldn't that set off a nuclear explosion? I don't think they do that. I'm no nuclear scientist, but I would venture to say that that probably wouldn't be a good thing. We have so much conflict on this world, and it's so infinitesimally stupid and small when people come on a social platform and just attack each other. That's more important than their relationships. It's more important than their life itself. And, let me give you some example of Don C. The other day, when I wasn't, posting anything, right? I put on a short and I took it off pretty quick. It had something to do with, Big Kevin's stroke. I said something about that, right? He was Johnny on the spot. Johnny on the spot. For that short minute I put a show on and took it down, he already had it. And he was posting on the Copycat channel. Now, Don claims, this is all rich stuff. I mean, I love every minute of it. Don claims that, he's a businessman. He's still doing business on his computer. He's doing this, volunteer work. Well, if that was really the case, how is he constantly there? The minute I put something on my show and he's quick to comment, what about this work he's involved with on the computer and his volunteer work and everything? Do any people actually believe that Don really has a life? Or that maybe he's in love with me or something? He's attracted to me? People are beginning to wonder. They're starting to say that. It's incredible. They don't have these lives that they claim they have, and Don certainly did, because I could put something on for 3 seconds and he's there to hear it. Who has that time on their hands to do that? I mean, he's there, like, immediately. Boom, he's there. Like, what the fuck? Seriously? I told you, man. These guys got things going on in their lives that they don't talk about. Or they don't have enough going on in their lives. I mean, if Don is there, lickety-split, the second I put on a fucking show, no matter how short or long it may be, he's like the number one person right there. So how can he have such a wonderful, busy, productive life if all he's doing is like a fucking, predator just hanging around waiting for that notification bell to go off to see if Frank Battaglia puts on a show? That's pretty damn pathetic. All right, I said a lot this morning. And as far as people spreading around information about Ricky, look, it's inevitable that will happen sometime. But may I just give you some advice? Unless you could prove something, don't send me emails and say that somebody kicked off when he didn't. Now, it's inevitable that's going to happen with Ricky for obvious reasons. It's inevitable it was going to happen with Fazio when it did, and so on, and Ed Lippett and so forth. They weren't living healthy lives. They were overweight, and their diet and everything else in relationship to all this, it all came together. I mean, what do you expect? When you're that big and obese, what do you expect? What do you honestly expect? Oh, I'm healthy, as Big Kevin says. He just had a fucking stroke, you know. But oh, there's rumor that Ricky kicked off. Another rumor. Someone sent me an email saying that Ricky kicked off or something. Died, meaning from his obesity. Well, I say it's just an email. I said, prove it. You know, send me something to prove it. Don't send me an email saying, like I said, it's inevitable that it's going to happen with Ricky. Nobody can argue that. Nobody can argue that. I mean, you've seen the way he stuffs food in his mouth, how big he is. And the only thing that's ever saved Ricky's life, that even gave him any longevity to his life at all, is the fact that he would cheap out a lot and he'd be doing a lot of walking S&R. But I've seen him in the store. I've seen the things that he buys. Remember, I've seen him a couple times in the store. I know what he buys. I know what he eats. And he's also shown that on camera so many times, too. No lying about that. Stuff in his face like there's no tomorrow. What do you think is going to happen? Logically, what do you think is going to happen, folks? Well, anyway, I don't buy any stories. By experience on YouTube, I don't buy any stories unless proven. But if something did happen to Ricky, well, would you sit there like in wonderment saying, oh, I can't believe that happened? Or would you say to yourself, well, we were expecting that to happen for obvious reasons, right? There you go. I'm talked out this morning, my friends. Give me proof that Ricky kicked the bucket, I'll believe you. Ricky will probably be on this morning saying, oh, I'm here, I'm not dead, while he's stuffing his face, more than likely. Well, let's say that the inevitable did happen. Would Frank be right again? Would I be right again? I always am. Daddy, Dearest videos. I got a guy who's been writing me. Says, go on Discord. I said, I don't belong to Discord. It makes reference to Dave Phelps. That Dave Phelps is in touch with my daughter, and I don't even know how that's even possible, but nevertheless, that he's going to send what this guy calls Daddy Dearest videos to my daughter. Well, here's the thing. My daughter watches my shows. Number two, I actually send her videos. I actually send her videos. If it's pertaining to her in some form or way, if she hasn't seen it herself, I always make sure she'll get certain videos. Now this guy refers to, oh, there's pictures on Discord. Well, if he had pictures, why did he send it his email, the guy that's been writing me, right? I said, show me proof that something happened to Ricky, you know. Yeah, it's just a lot of, as Gilda says, a lot of gossip. What do you expect on here, you know? Well, like I said, if something did happen to Ricky, you know, would you expect different? And pictures of what? I mean, pictures of what? This guy's right. They got pictures on Discord. I said, pictures of what? What pictures? Ricky on a deathbed, or picture of Phelps holding up a letter to my daughter, or if you want me, what are they referring to as pictures? Pictures of what? If you had pictures of something, how come you don't send it an email on some attachment or something? No, they don't do that. But you know what? I've had. I'm actually online live, so I don't know if you think I'm just talking to you, Gilda, or you're just responding in the background. Okay, either way.
Just responding for the background.
Oh, the background. All right, right on. You know, I've always had the feeling that Phelps, not all the time, I thought about it in the past, and it was a passing thought, and I went elsewhere with my thought. I always thought Phelps might have been behind the copycat channels because Dave Phelps is doing things in a stealth way. Doesn't want me to know it's him, but it's his way of trying to slap me in the face by putting a show against me, which is ridiculous because, well, if you heard my show, you heard my show. It doesn't have to be copied and put on there. It doesn't make any sense at all. You know, if you listen to my show, you hear what I have to say. You don't need a copycat channel to record what I had to say. But whatever, their thought processes and, behind on doing something so ridiculous anyway. So if you got proof on here about anything, folks, you just show the proof. How many times people, I got documents, I got paperwork, but they just put some fraudulent documents out there. Whether it's about a resolution, whether it's about somebody else, or whatever it might be. You know, proof of the pudding, just, you got a picture of Ricky on his deathbed or something? Not how you would ever have that if he croaked. Where are they? Where's the pictures? News at 11. I mean, where's the pictures? I get emails, but talk is cheap. They want to spread gossip. They figure Frank will talk about it. Well, I am talking about it. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, you got proof that Ricky bit the bullet or something like that? Show it. Show it. Show the proof. Talk is cheap. There's a lot of cheap talk on here. Okay, Dave Phelps situation. I've always said it, and I still mean it. Dave Phelps never left YouTube. No, he was too involved with YouTube. Too angry of a man he was. Still has that anger. And he never left YouTube. I never thought he did. I never say he did. I was always the one saying that he's out there, just hiding under different sock account names. Many of them. So, I don't know if you guys notice it, but how could you not? If you go to these copycat channels and otherwise, even Big Kevin's show, and you'll see names you never heard before. Throwing insults and injury to me and all that stuff. And these are not newbies that are coming in there. These are people that you know very well. Going under these so-called sock account names and accounts. There's like big whole evil army out there. It's a handful of people under different sock account names. That's all it is. So, anyway. At least I got the balls to talk about this shit. I will address a problem or just add to the knowledge or the education of people on here regarding different matters that are discussed on YouTube. Oh, the relationship of my daughter, this and that, this and that. Well, you know the story. Since you started it, I finished it. And that's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. There's nothing more to the story than that. It is what it is. Some things you could change, some things you can't change. And some people out there you can't change, that's for damn sure. It's entertainment. And there's nothing wrong with entertainment. It's just like what people do with it. And make up different stories and everything else. What are you going to believe? Do you believe Barry's in jail? Do you believe Barry was sent home to Alabama? Be sensible. What do you really think? Obviously, he's still in jail. Okay, so if you want to believe that he's in an airplane ride to Alabama, well, I don't know what to tell you. Because that would never happen. And not until he pays the piper. That's just the way it is. Well, welcome to my mid-afternoon shoe. I don't get the biggest audience in the mid-afternoon, but that really doesn't matter. What I say on here travels very far, apparently. So the few people that are writing me on my email, it's like this. You could talk about whatever you want before I throw it in my spam folder, but if you're going to present something, then present it, like evidence, pictures, whatever it might be. Don't just say, hey, I heard something happen to Ricky or this or that or whatever, this, that, and the other. Present evidence. Talk is cheap. I just wind up sending your emails to my spam folder and I just never look at them. They will not go to my regular email. That's the way I work it anyway. There's a number of people that wrote me from the past. I never see their emails anymore. It gets sent to spam and my spam folder goes to trash and, that's the way I work it anyway on here. You could say things on here that you want, but you have to back it up with facts. Like, maybe some overlooked things, like what happened with Big Kevin having a heat stroke. It's pretty serious. I've had that once. And I've actually had some dehydration where I believe it create low blood pressure too. It fell in a house. But, this shit happens in the tropics. Um, when you think about their health history and their present physical situation, it goes without saying. It's common sense that if your body is carrying around a lot of weight, it's putting a lot of strain on all your organs, not just your heart, but certainly your heart and blood pressure, things like that. And if you maintain that weight at an older age, and let's look at Kevin. He's like, 62, 63. I think 63. Yeah, it's not gonna really help his situation. Not with the weather. It all comes together. It's not just you decide to go out in this hot, humid weather. Have you been hydrating? Number one is first question. You got to keep that in mind. Standing out in a line for 3 hours in Thailand heat, I would imagine is very conducive to a heat stroke. If you haven't hydrated and then in consideration your weight and strain on your heart, yeah. So I know exactly what he experienced. His heart rate probably went up. He didn't understand what was going on with it. It started to become concerning in a short period of time because his rate would go up, and then he'd feel this almost like an adrenaline surge going through his body, his arms, then his chest. Then all of a sudden he starts getting a little lightheaded. And that lightheadedness, it creates more of your heart rate going up even further because now you're having anxiety over what you're feeling. So he had an anxiety attack in combination. He didn't even realize it because you're reacting to your body and you're feeling weird. You know you might go down, so your heart rate goes up. It doesn't help. It creates more or an instant kind of anxiety, and you go down. Your eyes get dark. Next thing you know, you're out. That's how it works. And I know, because that's happened to me. There you go. I know by experience. So yeah, weight does have a lot to do with it. So Big Kevin's been kind of quiet the past couple of days since he's been on, hasn't he? He's thinking this stuff over, right? No, I'm afraid to go out in the sun anymore. Oh, well, here's the thing, old Big Cabin. Don't be afraid to go out in the sun. It won't kill you. It's not necessarily the sun that's going to kill you. It's being terribly out of shape and not hydrating. Well, yes, and being oversized, like I said earlier, strain on the heart. These are all elements and facts that come together and it produce a heat stroke. There you go. If you had it once, yeah, it's probably going to happen again unless you hydrate like a mofo and keep your body temp down, wear a hat, and especially having a bald head, that really doesn't help at all. There's no hair to protect you and keep your head cool. Your brain from frying, although you have a fried brain already, but something that we can't help you with, or I can't help you with, but wear a hat next time you're outdoor. Maybe something with horns on it or something like that, but cover your head. That might help. Making Kevin think a little bit, and even making Tricky Ricky think a little bit too. He's been awfully quiet too. You would think he would react to the rumors of his demise. Well, Ricky's kind of a workhorse. He's probably alive and well. I don't know about well, but I'm pretty sure Ricky is alive and enjoying his substandard apartment over near Mandawi at the Decca Homes low-income housing. I'm sure he's doing fine. However, that does not speak of the future. I think Licky knows what he has going on with him. The only person who truly knows is himself. He knows how his body feels. He knows how he feels, how he has a night out drinking, and how his blood pressure is affected immediately from that drinking. I'm sure he's crashed many times but his blood pressure is probably just. I remember one time his blood pressure did go up, but he was getting a bloody nose. He said that's a good indicator, very good one. But hey, don't listen to me. You know, there's no shedding of tears if you drop dead from your own foolishness. You are responsible for your own self. Nobody else is. So if you want to eat and eat till like there's no tomorrow, and shove down that food down your mouth like a fucking garbage truck, where garbage men are throwing bags of trash in it, and that garbage truck is just eating it up and compressing it and eating it up and getting the garbage to the gut of the beast of that truck. That's what you're doing. Congratulations, you're on your way out. Well, we're all on our way out. In a broad way of looking at things, we certainly all are, including yours truly. Nothing goes on forever. Just taxes and hate and, greedy people and stupid people and death. And they think that they're superheroes that could survive their obesity and their lack of proper diet and so forth. They must be superheroes. I don't know. Maybe Stan Lee made them superheroes, real life superheroes somehow. But Stan Lee died, I believe, so I don't think Mr. Stan Lee could help them all. Nobody's a hero, buds, on here. Nobody's a hero on here. I'm not a hero, you're not a hero, nobody's a hero. There are fools on here. Yes, there is. There's plenty of fools. But you live your life the way you want, I live mine the way I do. You can't force anybody with knowledge or good intent to do anything, really. But lastly, I'll say, if you're going to send me an email, then don't bother. Unless you got solid proof of making some kind of an allegation against somebody or point of view, don't bother to write. And there is something called editing, too, so I still don't buy most of the stuff that's sent to me whatsoever. I suppose if Ricky didn't come on for a long time, I would start to probably say, the boy got himself in some kind of trouble, medically, legally, or whatever. You never know what comes Ricky's way. Could be legal things, too. You just never know. Could be sitting in a jail cell somewhere. Who knows, right? You don't know until you actually know. You know, you know. You know. You're the best person to know what's happening with you. You know, you know. Go listen to Bowie's song. It's a good song. Before he died, he knew. That's that song was about. He knew his time was coming. Do you know if yours is? What's your lifestyle? Running your mouth all the time, that could get you into trouble. Eating too much, that'll get you into trouble. Drinking too much. Yeah. There's a toll to pay. And it's not just on a bridge, my friends. There's a toll to pay in life. And if Dave Phelps is very active out there, which I'm pretty sure he is, what do you say to Dave Phelps except, Grrr! I used to tease him with that. He hated that. He was always angry. That was one angry man. He'd get disturbed pretty easily. You didn't have to really say much with Dave. He just had this anger problem. Grrr, grrr. That was my impression of him all the time. You heard me doing a lot, and that's what you heard Dave doing. Grrr, grrr. Just growling all the time. I don't know. Part of his personality, I guess. But he sure growled a lot at me. Now, would you be surprised or not if Dave was behind all this shit? Copycat channels, dozen sock account names. Would you be surprised? Would you be surprised or not? I wouldn't. I think out of the box here. Now, one could say, well, how about the Peckerwood guy? You would think he's behind something. Yeah, you would think he would be, because Peckerwood has been definitely in the background this whole time. But he's got his own cross to bear, you know. Yeah, he knows what I'm talking about. He's got his own set of problems, but that's his, not mine. Okay, that was my afternoon shoe. Make sure you recorded it now. You never know if I'm going to keep it on or take it off. Dawn, I'm sure you're recording it. You probably ran off the toilet if you got your notification that I was on. At least wipe your ass before you do so, Dawn. Very unhygienic. You could certainly wait for my show, but then again, he probably goes to the toilet with the phone in his hand. Doesn't want to miss a trick. When Frankie gets on, I'm there, baby. I'm there. Fuck my woman. Fuck anything. I gotta listen to Frank. It's your life. It's your life. I am just so flattered that I'm so important to certain people on here. All right, Kevin, watch yourself, boy. Kevin, watch yourself, boy. Ricky, watch yourself. Big E, watch yourself. Don C, watch yourself, boy. And Popeye, if you keep it up, you're going to uggle to death. You really are. Go lasso one of those gray-haired, silver-haired, blue-haired girls with the fat diabetic ankles over at the bingo parlor. See some action before you leave this earth. You might actually get a better attitude. Something to think about. I think there's lots of reasons why people have their own YouTube channel, and it really varies with the individual and purpose. I think I originally came on YouTube to learn. I would look at different channels because I had an interest in the whole Philippine scene. That was a long time ago, but then I took to a channel, and I went from there, and the rest is pretty much history. And I was just listening to, he's not the only one. Paul was over at Mike's place having an interview, old dog, exchanging questions, and had to agree with a few of the ideals as to why people would put on a show. And as Paul said, I think initially it was sharing. Now, Paul, old dog, wanted to share his life so that his family, such as almost like an online diary, as he puts it, really, starting off at Facebook, but then going to YouTube. It's a way of sharing with family or friends or whatever to see what your life is like, actually, through the miles, and what your life is like living in another country. That's all fine and dandy. Sharing is caring and all that stuff, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I think when it goes sideways, it goes sideways. I had a number of reasons why I was doing this kind of stuff on here, because in part I knew I was sharing maybe with somebody that didn't want to share with me, but it was a way to allow somebody to vicariously live my life through the miles and through the silence. So there you go. You learn more and more. So I've always had a rhyme and reason why I would have continually been on YouTube on here. The bad and the good, whatever. Still here. Keeping a silent communication going. I've listened to all kinds of reasons why people have actually moved out here, but it never turned out to be. It was not very well planned. I was listening to another guy, I never heard of him before, but he was saying what happened to him, or a family member, a cousin of his actually, in a Philippines hospital, private. and he needed all kinds of shit being done. This was a distant cousin of his, but he came in to help him. Didn't realize what the expenses were and how even Gcash wouldn't work unless, I don't know, there's some complication with that. He was living in California at the time and helping out his cousin, who was an ex big time Marine or something, that was living in the Philippines. And these emergencies, they come up and you don't, it's one of the emergencies, you don't really expect them. But they'll hit you hard. They'll hit you hard. Another guy I was listening to gave a good story where his 33-year-old Filipino wife, she had in vitro fertilization, and she went to a birthing place. Where did she go? She went to one of the hospitals in the Philippines, but um, she had some major problems she didn't know about, a mitral valve. First of all, the baby was born premature and had to spend, uh, let's see, a month or two in the hospital at 80,000 pesos per week. All right, it gets better. It gets better. Uh, she always thought she had this one particular medical problem, but I forgot what it was, but it really didn't turn out to be that. It turned out that she had some mitral. She needed a new heart valve, okay, a new heart valve. And that's good for another 30 years or whatever, but he's 70 years old, the husband now. So he's trying to set her up so that, she's alive in the next 30 years or something. She still has to do another heart valve replacement. They had to do an open chest surgery on her. He didn't expect all that stuff. So that on top of the premature born baby and the expenses for his wife, um, God, let me see, everything that went on, wind up costing him something like 6 million pesos. 6 million pesos. And for Philippine standards, that's a lot of money. So you never know what to actually expect, but these things could happen. Now, I've come to some sensibility that, well, what I should have done in the past, even like for a kidney stone thing, it's sure would have been a lot cheaper if I'd flown to Guam and took care of that. Because there were several visits for several procedures. And I think I don't know exactly, I don't have the paperwork in front of me. I'm sure it came over 400,000 to 500,000 pesos for the several visits I had to make at a private hospital right here in the Philippines. As I said, they charge you for every cotton swab if you needed a catheter, if you needed, you have a nurse come every so many hours, wake you up in the middle of the night to take your fucking pulse, which you don't need. That's not free service. You're paying for every time a nurse comes in. And they're going to change an IV bag on you, that's more money. You're still in pain from it. Every time they come in, they'll inject you. No, they'll give you what you want. They'll give you the strong stuff. They'll give you the morphine or the fentanyl. Oh, they will. If you have bona fide pain, it's legitimate. You're not just a drug addict looking for a fix. And you'll pay dearly for that medicine, but you don't care. Because if you're feeling uncomfortable, you're going to pay for that. But a lot of people don't realize all the expenses that go with a medical visit to a private hospital. I could turn around and say, well, maybe I'll just go to the public hospital. Well, put it this way, that one gal who had to have a mitral situation done with her heart, they found a heart surgeon in Cebu or Philippines that was trained in America. That was their luck. So that went very well for them. If you find the right physician. And if you don't, well, you're relying on the expertise of that particular doctor. So you take it a chance no matter what. So basically, a lesson learned is to have enough in the bank for emergency. If you want to do a YouTube show and you're so adamant about it, keep it as topical as you can. And it's hard not to share. I mean, Paul and lots of others, they share just about everything on YouTube. Talk about his feeling at his age. He's lucky to be 70. He looks at it this way, that he managed to reach 70 where others may not. I guess that's a positive outlook on things. Don't look about how much time you think you have left on this earth, but look at you know, the sensibility that you have made it, like he made it to 70, I made it to 71. So you want to look at the more positive, a more positive outlook on your situation. Being 70 plus doesn't mean you're dead or dying anytime soon. It doesn't work that way. Your genetics speak wonders, and other things you do to take care of yourself or not. Okay, it all mixes up in one big soup, and it comes out with whatever you made. It's going to taste good or bad, but your time spent on understanding yourself, understanding your body, understanding your needs, and going for these occasional checkups and things like that can mean it could be a world of difference, you know. But have something in the bank for even a small emergency. But I would recommend to anyone who has to have a procedure, and you figure it's going to cost, might add up to be a good amount of money. If you're an American, you can just fly to Guam and use your Medicaid card, and you'll be okay. Find the right doctor. I'm not sure if you have to get a referral or not. You may have to get a referral from your physician here in the Philippines. Or you could really walk into any emergency room. I mean, I think, for example, I like to get an endoscopy with my throat. I like to get, and also a colonoscopy every 3 years. So I'm running a little above 3 years. I like to keep that going. So when everything clears up, we'll try to get things in order because you want to catch something before it really gets bad. If you developed some sort of bugaboo that you're not going to be very happy with, that might limit your time on this earth. You might want to do some testing, some, proper body maintenance, preventive maintenance. Otherwise, you're going to drop like flies, like some YouTubers are. But that's entirely up to you. But I like to hear these stories on there, what they experience. I'm getting a smiley face here somehow. I like to I like to listen to some of that stuff and see what they've experienced and what the cost them at a private hospital. You could go to a public hospital, but I can't, in Cebu, but I just can't tell you that you're going to get the kind of care that you need. If it's something that isn't terribly complicated, you might be okay. And that's open to anyone. I mean, it's. I don't believe you have to be Filipino to go to a public hospital. But if you're forced to, then by all means go. But if you don't find the service to be what you would hope for, then you got that option of going to a private hospital. And yes, it will cost you dearly, dearly. Okay. Remember, they charge you for every little thing that they provide, every minute of service, every cotton swab, everything is noted down, and then they present you when it's all over with a bill that's like 2 pages long, and you're looking at that saying, "What? Jesus Christ! I only had a kidney stone." But you see, I had to go in there. One, two, three procedures. The last one was to remove the stent. Okay. Uh, Second procedure going back was to gyrate the stone, breaking it up into smaller pieces. And the first trip was everything from the emergency room triage, very strong pain medication, images taken, CT scans, whatever. And not having a bed ready, I had to wait for hours in the hallway room. It was horrible. And it was a private hospital, too. So when you add up all three visits, it's like having three procedures. I don't know. What did it cost us? About a half a million. I'm sure it was at least or close to half a million pesos just for that. Imagine that. With that being said, do things wisely when you're living out here. Prepare for it in some form or way. Just think that what might happen could happen when you least expect it. That's my story, and I'm going to stick to it.